Without the hair. I'm not connected to the internet.
Danny's ready.
Oh, yes? My glasses. Good evening. The meeting of the Public Safety Commission has been called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Kits peoples. Commissioner Nickel, would you like to lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance?
If you can, please stand and put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg,
Here.
Commissioner Hallman,
Here.
Commissioner Nickel,
Here.
Chair Aramian.
Here.
We have a quorum. Please note that Vice Chair Harrison and Commissioner Post is absent.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for September 23rd, 2024?
No changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I will second.
Madam Secretary, may I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman,
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel,
Aye.
Chair Aramian.
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Moving on, item 5 on our agenda for this evening is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes from August 19th, 2024?
No changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman,
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel,
Aye.
Chair Aramian.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Great. Next item on our agenda, item number 6, is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we do have Assembly Member Rick Chavez-Zabur. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chair Ramian, members of the Public Safety Commission. My name is Rick Chavez-Zabur, the Assembly Member who represents the 51st District. It is really a pleasure to be here. I came tonight because I wanted to express my sincere appreciation for the work that you do on behalf of the city and in the district of the 51st District. I know that you do this in your free time, and this is as a measure of public service, and just want to tell you that that I appreciate what you do, that you should look to my office as a partner in your efforts. Would like to congratulate Chair Ramian for his appointment as the new chair. Want to thank former Chair Hallman, who also incidentally serves as the chair of the 51st District Neighborhood and Communities Advisory Board, and also is the Assembly District 51 Man of the Year for his work on this Public Safety Commission. So I just want to thank you for your public service. You know, the last thing I'll say is that public safety is one of my top priorities. I was really honored to be named by the Assembly Speaker Rivas to chair the Select Committee on Retail Theft. We passed a package of 10 bills that were aimed at both having an effective response to retail theft, but at the same time not not rolling back criminal justice reforms that have been effective in keeping our community safe. And so I think we are effective in doing that. The bills were all signed by Governor Newsom about a month ago and will go into effect in January, and we're hopeful that they'll have a meaningful impact on addressing the retail theft that we are facing throughout California, and I know has plagued West Hollywood. We know that a large percentage of retail theft is actually being undertaken by retail theft rings that come into our communities over and over again. And so the package of bills does two things. It basically looks at the standards to go to these retail theft rings, but at the same time looks at diversion and rehabilitation for people that actually need help because they have substance abuse and mental health issues, and so that's a big component of the bill package as well. So with that, I just want to thank you. My office is always open. Thank you for the work that you do, and please call on my office if you need anything at all. Every year since I've been elected, which has only been 2, I've carried bills on behalf of the city of West Hollywood, and look forward to continue collaborating and working to make our communities safer and our communities stronger. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that is all the public comments.
Do we have any callers on Zoom, Madam Secretary?
There are no Zoom comments.
Great, thank you. Unfinished business. There's no unfinished business on the agenda for this evening, so moving on to item 8A is from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, who will provide us a report on the activity for August. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair Aramian and Commissioners. Kevin Price, Battalion Chief here in Battalion 1, West Hollywood. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here in place of Assistant Fire Chief Drew Smith, who had prior engagement. He can make it tonight. Here to give the stats for August of last month. We had no outstanding or under ordinary calls here in the city of West Hollywood. We had a total of 576 total responses, 421 medical calls, and 118 good intent calls for service. That averages out to about just below 20 calls per shift. We had, in regards to medical calls, we had a total of 303 medical calls, 135 were ALS calls, and 168 BLS calls, for which 303 were transported, so of those calls. We had no significant fires to report for the month of August. We had no property damage or contents loss for the month of August. We had a couple cooking fires that we responded to and rubbish fires, but nothing of significant value was lost. On the other hand, just to let you know, Engine 8 did respond to the bridge fire. They were part of a strike team. They went out there. They provided the strike team with some good work. They went out there for 5 days, for which we backfilled that engine for the city. So just be assured that the city was covered completely, or for that period of time that they were gone. The only other thing that I have is that we're in preparation for Halloween, West Hollywood Halloween Carnival. We're attending planning meetings and wrapping things up, preparing for the Carnival. Other than that, thank you. We'd like to thank the city for continued support of the fire department. And if there's any other questions, please ask.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any comments at this time?
I have a question.
Commissioner Halban?
Thank you, Chair. I was just noticing on the report, it looks like 4 carbon monoxide incidents.
Yes, those are calls that we get for particular houses. Most homes have carbon monoxide detectors, and sometimes due to faulty appliances or exhaust leaking into homes, those detectors will go off. So we respond to those calls, and we have sensors that each of our units carry. We go in and investigate and make sure that the homes are safe. If we need to, we'll call the gas company and provide that service to the residents.
Is that a high number?
I'm sorry?
Is that like an unusually high number to
No.
have 4, or does it happen more frequently now that most residents do have carbon monoxide?
Yes, and that's what it is. And that's what it is. I think there's an ordinance that most homes should have carbon monoxide detectors, because carbon monoxide is something that you can't smell. So those detectors they're very sensitive. And so we do, this isn't a high amount of calls that I've seen in the past and us responding to it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners have any comments at this time? Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Chair, we do have one public comment on this item.
Perfect, I was getting there.
Kevin Burton, if you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Burton, resident of West Hollywood and co-founder of a local group of community emergency response team members that is CERT, and our organization's name is WehoResearch. And I just want to bring to your attention, if you're not already aware, that as the city usually has over the years, it has worked with the County Fire Department to host a basic set of sessions of basic training for CERT readiness. And the first of those sessions is this Friday. And I think the class size is about 25 or so. And in those courses, which I've taken a few times myself, one learns how to be prepared for emergencies and how to assist in a variety of ways to protect yourself, your family, and your neighbors during the period in a major emergency when the emergency services are overwhelmed. Because I think the city of West Hollywood at any one time has about 19 firefighters at the 2 stations, and that's to cover a city of 35,000 people. So if there's a major earthquake or other major emergencies, you're on your own for the most part. And that's what this CERT training helps to prepare people for. But the 25 slots is not enough, because this was advertised about 5 weeks before this first session on Friday, made available to sign up. It filled up in 3 or 4 days, well over a month before the first session. That means the demand, people in our community who would like to learn how to be prepared for emergencies, how to help themselves, their neighbors, their own family, the demand for that is not at all being met by this one small class. And I don't know exactly what the limitation is. I think it's in part the county firefighters' resources and their trainers and their schedules. But really, I think the city should do better. And they should, if there's a limitation on the number of trainers and other resources necessary to host these classes, they should work with other organizations that have trainers and also the county fire department to locate other trainers to hold other classes throughout the year so that the full demand from individuals in our community can be met. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, any more speakers?
There are no other speakers on this item.
Moving on, item 8B is from the Block by Block Security Ambassadors, who will provide a report on activity for August.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Stephen Beacott. I'm the Regional Director of Operations for Block by Block. I am here in place of Erica Leone, who had a family event this evening, but she did leave me with some information and a follow-up from, I believe, last month's meeting. So we'll start with the numbers first. For the month of August, the safety ambassadors responded to 451 calls for service, which is about 15 calls per day. Safety ambassadors performed 3,000, I'm trying to read this, 3,606 business contacts, which is about 120 of those per day, and also made 1,399 connections with unhoused residents, a little less than about 45 a day. Definitely would like to highlight the work of our team. Over Labor Day, there was a patrol that did see an individual who did cause some property damage. So we kept a safe distance away. We obviously contacted our public safety partners, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and followed them, and they were able to help in identifying this person who did that property crime. Also, we are redoubling efforts to identify and work with the illegal hot dog vendors on Santa Monica Boulevard. Especially our overnight teams have partnered with code enforcement and LASD to provide special deployments and assistance over the last few weekends in order to really address this issue. And in addition, there's a couple things that were brought up, I believe, at the last meetings regarding the bicycle patrols. So we have an odometer on the bicycles. It's not as perfect as an odometer on your car, and that is checked at every shift. On the average, anywhere from 10 to 20 miles, depending on what they're doing and then what sort of route and what other calls for services they may have. Seems like it's kind of a wide range, but like I said, depending on what's going on, and if they do have calls for services or they're doing business contacts, it might be a little bit less one day or a little bit more the other day. We use these bikes a lot, and because of that, there is a lot more wear and tear than you would have on your normal bike that you're gonna take down to the beach. So we're actually looking at replacing that equipment and also getting new odometers with that as well, so that we're up to date and we can give you the best numbers possible. Also was a question regarding the city use of the city app. Most of our investors, they have phones that are dead phones. They don't have live data on them. So a couple things. So the ones that do are sort of supervisors and team leaders. So if we have just an ambassador who doesn't have a phone with live data, there's a couple things they can do. First of all, that they can just radio in. Radio is our primary form of communication. Let that person know. That team leader can then take that picture and then upload that to the city app. Or if it might be too, is like if they just in the normal course of things, we're going to be seeing these things. A lot of times it's already been uploaded, but as long as they report it, so that way we're not double uploading that, and that's something that we're also working on, just to making sure that these folks, even though they might not be able to do it themselves through those phones, that they are taking that extra step, calling into that team leader or operations supervisor, and just making sure that those get addressed. Finally on the kiosks. Kiosk deployments are 4 kiosks. We have on Santa Monica, La Brea, Fairfax, Ramada, and Robertson, and 2 additional 24/7 kiosks at Veterans Park and also at the property at Fairfax and Fountain. I know that there's some unwanted activity there, so that is still in use. Any changes to those? Obviously, that we are in constant communication with Danny Rivas and Anita, so if that changes at all, we can immediately change that deployment.
Great, thank you. Any commissioners have any comments at this time? Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your report. About hot dog vendors, so what normally happens? Is there a citation? Are they removed? How do you deal with them?
So, and I'll be honest, I don't have so as a regional director of operation, I work with all of our programs, but I know that after the Pride event, there was an increase with that. So what we're doing is identifying first, having a conversation with them. Just wanted to let you know that where you are, it is not legal to sell hot dogs in the city of West Hollywood. Also, overnight, there is code enforcement. That's really where the teeth is. And then moving from there, if a situation, depending on that situation, then it might include a call to LASD. But really, code enforcement is the main group that will cite them and follow that through.
Great, thank you.
And Commissioner Niskel, just to add to that, so it's very difficult. There was state legislation that was passed several years ago, which essentially decriminalized any sort of street vending. And so in the years past, code enforcement staff, not just here in West Hollywood, but throughout the state of California, would issue notices to appear in court to address this type of issue. So that is no longer capable now as a result of state law. And so what staff does do now is, of course, attempts to make contact, but in almost all instances, the minute a street vendor sees a city staff member in uniform, a code enforcement officer specifically, they will start to either run away or push their cart very quickly. Staff is not expected in any way, shape, or form to engage or chase a street vendor, but of course that becomes a little bit of a back and forth from that perspective. And so code enforcement officers have been working with block by block. Security ambassadors have also been working with our entertainment policing team deputies out and about the last few weekends, and they'll continue to do so leading up to Halloween. As we know and we expect, right, that there'll be a higher volume of street vending. You know, we're obviously surrounded by the city of Los Angeles on three sides as well. And essentially in the city of Los Angeles, there is no enforcement as it relates to street vending. And so it makes it extremely difficult, even more so because the street vendors that are maybe accustomed to doing business in the city of LA just now move into West Hollywood to do business. And so code enforcement officers are trying to do the best that they can. And so right now we do have folks that we've added on overtime to try to help out these efforts, which is not affecting regular operations as we get a number of calls for service that our code enforcement officers respond to, right, that are not obviously capable of being there 24/7 trying to manage this situation. So if there is a street vendor that does not try to evade, then of course that will give the capability for that code enforcement officer to try to retrieve some form of identification. Having the deputies present is so important because in many instances, almost all instances, street vendors will communicate that they do not have identification on them. And because it is no longer a misdemeanor offense, then that doesn't provide sheriff's deputies the ability to take somebody into the station. So you can kind of see the difficulty and the obstacles. And again, this isn't something new that the city of West Hollywood's dealing with, but if we are able to acquire that identification, then a code enforcement officer can issue an administrative citation. That's a civil fine, and that civil fine is established by state law, and it also affords folks on the receiving end of that citation the ability to appeal. It's limited to a very certain amount. It's extremely low in terms of the fine amount, but that's a part of state legislation. And so if somebody doesn't want to pay for that citation and it goes through the recovery process and they're not concerned about that affecting their credit, then you know, essentially that's the extent of any sort of consequence for doing that. So we understand the frustration and the concerns that have been brought forth by businesses and even some folks that have gone the path of doing the right thing in terms of coming to the city because we do offer a street vending business license. But for those folks that, you know, do not, and they come into the city and they come in volumes, it's quite difficult to try to address that. But again, it's not unusual. All cities are dealing with it, but there's state law, unfortunately, that makes that determination for us at this point. So,
Thank you.
sure.
Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned the kiosks, and the one on the east side is Santa Monica and La Brea. I worked really hard to get that one installed, and it was one of the first ones outside of Plummer Park. With that said, it's usually deployed around 11 in the morning, and I walk that area every morning, typically starting at 8. I was just curious, is there a way to get it out earlier in the morning, especially during rush hour, because there's a lot of activity on that corner by the Dillon?
And Commissioner Hellman, you're referring to the one that's on La Brea?
Yeah, in Santa Monica.
Yeah, so the challenge with the kiosk is, so anytime that we establish the kiosk, when I say we, in partnership obviously with Block by Block will make contact with one of the neighboring properties. And so they'll typically store the kiosk there, right? And then they'll have the assigned ambassador ride their bicycle or do a foot patrol out to that kiosk, and then pull that kiosk out. And so it is a matter of just coordinating that, but all of our kiosks right now, other than the 2 locations that are at the park, at Plummer Park and West Hollywood Park, all of those begin at 11 a.m. and then they conclude at 7 p.m. And so establishing, additional hours beyond the 8 hours ends up becoming a little bit of a challenge, because most of those businesses and so forth that are allowing us to store the kiosk, they close at a certain time, or that storage area isn't available outside of those parameters. But we can certainly discuss that and try to see if there's some feasibility to try to expand the hours. I know we've gotten some requests. What we have done, as you've seen, is we've added some additional kiosks in other areas as well. And then in the later evening hours, the reason why you won't see a kiosk is for safety reasons. So you'll have a Block by Block ambassador. You typically will see them paired up in the evening hours, and that is intentional. And so having the ambassadors patrol on foot in a certain area provides more effectiveness in terms of having eyes and being more of a uniform presence, rather than having them at a fixed post. But we can certainly look at potentially having them out there a little earlier.
Well, that one is stored at the UPS location at the Dillon, and I believe they're open by 8. If not, they're open definitely by 9. So, and it is stored right in the front of the facility by the door. So, if possible, if that could happen, because I know they would have access to it. And I do know they close at a certain time, that I completely understand. But I think it would just be beneficial if they could be out earlier, especially on that corner.
Yeah, we can certainly take a look at that, but then as we're doing that a little earlier, then that means we'll have to pull an ambassador, right? Because right now we have a set shift from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's an 8-hour shift. So if we're going to do anything earlier and we're going to maintain those same hours, now we're going to have to pull from existing resources of where we have them. So we'll assess that and take a look at that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other commissioners have comments? Great, thank you.
Commission Secretary, do you have any public speakers at this time?
There is no speakers on this item at this time. Okay. We do have one.
Hi, Larry Block, West Hollywood. With regards to these hot dog vendors, I understand code compliance is in charge of them, and almost the way it made it sound was like there's a one-off hot dog vendor. At my store at night, on Friday and Saturday night, there is a cluster blank of hot dog vendors that line the street, and there's not a code compliance officer walking the street between 12 and 3 a.m. at all, that would even notice them, that would even ask them to leave. And in lieu of the Barney's Beanery And I tell you, this is my biggest fear as an employer, and is the reason we're losing our small businesses, is no owner wants the liability of having employees in their store going one-on-one with the mentally ill that come into the store during the day. There's nobody on the street. None of the businesses are open. My employees are forced to go one-on-one with some mentally ill individual, and that's why I put the store up for sale. So WeHo is going to lose its heart if they don't get its arms around the problems that we have in the city on the streets. There's no such thing as a small business anymore. So, and the hot dog vendors, they just make it unsafe at night too. And there's nobody around. So I hope that people can readdress this issue with a how do we keep our employees safe at night force? A special dedicated force to what happens between 1 and 3 in the morning on that street, when the shifts are changing at the sheriff and when there's no code compliance officers around.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, any other public speakers?
There's no additional speakers.
Great, thank you. Item 8C is from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who will provide a report on activity for August. Good evening.
Good evening, Commission. Sheriff Ramian. Okay, so for our information for the month of August, West Hollywood Station personnel handled a total of 1,846 calls for service, 73 of these being an emergency response. Our deputies made 51 felony arrests and 80 misdemeanor arrests. West Hollywood Station Part 1 crimes for the month of August, we had 185 incidents, broken down by district. West accounted for 57%, 104. City Center was 19%, 34, and East was 24% and 45 incidents. There were 41 reported pickpocketing incidents in the Rainbow District at various businesses. For August, we had 64 sorts reports that were submitted online. With these reports, we would like to remind the public to please keep in mind that not all reports are eligible for online reporting. If the report is submitted and it doesn't qualify, they would need to have to contact the station again and file a report properly. There is information on the website when they are filing the report as to what does qualify and what doesn't. There's some basic criteria on there, and we just would remind people to try to follow that criteria so that they don't waste time with submitting something and then waiting for a response. Our MET team responded to a total of 78 incidents in August. They ranged from calls for service or proactive work that's done by the team. In August, our station volunteers donated 376.5 hours of service, included in such duties as the public counter, patrolling, and special events. Last week, our detectives and our SIT team, which is inclusive of our cops and EPT team, worked with the detectives at our Gateway Center to conduct a retail theft operation. As a result of that operation, several arrests were made. The way they do those operations is they work with the local businesses in that shopping center, where we place undercover deputies and detectives in and around those locations to be as a quick response to thefts that are occurring or that may occur in there. The business owners and the business managers are extremely happy when we do that to try to curb some of that theft that's striking that shopping center. On August 6th, there was a minor traffic incident that occurred on the 7900 block of Santa Monica Boulevard. One of the parties in the incident became physical with the other person. As a result, a male adult fell to the ground, causing injury to his head. Unfortunately, the injury was severe and he passed away as a result. The suspect was arrested at the scene. Sheriff's Homicide Bureau detectives were dispatched to the scene. They presented the case to the district attorney for filing, and a murder charge was filed, and there is an active court case ongoing. On September 14th, there was a major water main break at the intersection of La Cienega and Santa Monica Boulevard. Crews and first responders arrived at the location to assess the situation. The intersection was closed for several hours. We would like to remind the public and the driving community that they need to please try to obey the workers, the first responders, the fire department, everybody who was out there. Our goal is to try to keep people safe and mitigate injury or damage to people's vehicles, things like that. There was a lot of pushback to the people that were on the scene, including the fire department, when they were trying to give advice or try to keep people away from the area. People refused and went right into the scene when we were trying to keep them out. So just a reminder, it's not that we're doing that because we're trying to delay people, it's for safety reasons. On September 14th at approximately 10:30 p.m., there was an assault that occurred at the 8700 block of Santa Monica Boulevard. A valet attendant was attacked and critically injured as a result. The suspect was seen on surveillance cameras during the attack. It is believed the suspect is possibly unhoused. The suspect's description and photo has been distributed on various media outlets. Numerous tips and information has been reported to the station. Our detectives and our deputies follow up on each of those tips and reports, and we make our contacts if possible. To date, the suspect is still outstanding, and detectives are following up on all leads with this case. We would like to remind everybody that on October 13th, the city will host the annual AIDS Walk LA. This is an annual walk that is conducted from West Hollywood Park and traverses Santa Monica Boulevard from La Cienega to Doheny. It'll be in the early morning hours, I believe starting around 6 o'clock will be the first closures, and it goes to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For a complete list of times and closures, please see the city website. But again, it's going to be October 13th, which is a Sunday. Next, I would like to introduce somebody who's newly assigned to our station, who's going to be working in a capacity as a social media and public information capacity. She is taking that role to try to help with improving our social media and our contact with the public, as well as the city. She'll be doing, again, social media, public information broadcasts, things like Nixle, and also helping us prepare press releases. So let me introduce Jamie Araki, and she'll just give you a little brief introduction to herself.
Hi, everybody. Oh, maybe
So
not.
you gotta be closer to it. Mhm.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jamie Rocky. As Sergeant Duran said, I'm new to the Sheriff's Department and new to the West Hollywood Sheriff Station. I've been here for about 6 months. I got hired in April. I came from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, where I was a media production specialist and a public information officer there. There I was assigned to administration. I was directly under the sheriff and everybody up in admin. I'm super excited to be at the West Hollywood Sheriff Station. I'm really happy to be not in administration. I like to be more hands on deck and deal with more with the community. As Sergeant Duran said, we're going to be doing more with social media, hopefully to keep the public more informed. For Ciclavia and things like that, we did put out road closures along with the city to try to help have a broader voice. And we're also putting out like avoid the areas, things like he said with the water main break. We did kind of post about that and just let everybody know, trying to help with their commute or things like that. And our goal is to really post more, whether that spotlights our deputies and our department and our agency, but also post and do more community events and a lot more PSA informational type things on how to prevent crimes. And if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioners with any comments at this time?
I do, Chair. Thank you. Thank you for your report. And Jamie, I just want to say welcome. We've been eagerly awaiting your arrival, and we're so excited for you to join. I myself even saw the avoid the area for the water main break on La Cienega, and that helped me avoid the area. So that's one point. I do have a question that I think falls into the sheriff deputy's purview, but I could be a little bit wrong. So Director Rivas, please help me out if we need to talk elsewhere. But I have a general question. With the city of West Hollywood, we have an anti-camping ordinance in effect, as I understand. And then recently, a month or so ago, there was that U.S. Supreme Court case that passed about penalizing the unhoused. And then there's been additional pressure from the governor on cities within the state of California to take action. Here in the city of West Hollywood, how is that going to affect kind of our operations and our interactions with the unhoused?
So just really quickly, there is a city ordinance that our deputies usually use to enforce the camping aspect of it. To this point, there hasn't been any change, and there hasn't been any direction for us to change with enforcing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will just add to that, but from the city's perspective, yeah, we've had something on the books, I want to say since the city's inception, but it's been quite long.
Right.
Since we've had it in place. But to Sergeant Duran's point, in terms of kind of maintaining the status quo, in terms of offering services, making contact, using all of the resources that we have available to us, that is going to maintain. And so we'll just continue that same approach. I do know that Sheriff Luna also had a discussion with the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors on this very topic, as well as it was agendized a few weeks ago. And so that was also communicated just as a department as a whole of what he conveyed to the LA County Board of Supervisors. And so we plan on maintaining the same approach as we have.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Nickel.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Duran, for your report. Ms. Araki, it's good to see you again. I think that we met during National Night Out. I did just want to ask about the attack on the 15th. Were there other victims? It wasn't just the valet that was attacked, is that correct?
Yes, so we've been looking into that. It sounds like there were other victims of this person. They may not have been reported at the time. Some of this might have come after the fact, after they realized what happened at Barney's. But I do believe there are 2 other people that we're in contact with that are potential victims.
So did those attacks happen the same night, or were they spread out over?
In the same night, within close to the same time frame.
And I know that you're still trying to identify the suspect, but there was no robbery or anything. The motivation was just.
Yeah, so at this time, it would be kind of bad for us to speculate the motive, but there was no robbery.
Okay. All right. And then Gateway, you brought that up. That's very interesting that you did that operation. So what did it find? Because we often talk about people coming from other places, specifically as gangs, and coordinating to rob people or to. Was this just individuals, or was it coordinated, the people that you arrested in this operation?
So the arrests that they made were individuals. We haven't had that mob type of theft go on at our businesses there at the Gateway, but individual thefts have been causing a great deal of problems at that Gateway Center. Certain businesses over there especially have been hit very, very hard. Repeat offenders essentially going back, basically not caring that they get arrested, whatnot. So the Sheriff's Department has developed or put together a team with our Major Crimes Bureau that are a retail theft task force. And they work in communication with our station level detectives to put together operations just like we did this last week. I believe this is our 2nd or 3rd, I don't remember, operation like this, basically, where we go out and saturate the shopping center again with undercover deputies and detectives that are out there to have a quick response and to get people in custody and arrested right away and recover that stolen merchandise.
Great. I'm sure the shop owners are pleased that you do that. Thank you.
Commissioner Freeberg.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for your report. And Jamie, we're so excited you're here. We've been waiting a very long time, so welcome. This is much needed on social media and public information. Just a couple follow-up questions. Has the U.S. Post Office, is there any update on the mail theft in the apartment buildings?
I don't have any update right now. After my report here, we're going to have a brief presentation from our detective supervisor. Maybe he can provide a little bit of insight as to what goes on with the communication with the post office. But as of right now, I haven't heard any updates with the Postal Service, but mail room thefts are still occurring.
Okay. Also, in regards to the Barney's Beanery incident, do detectives work with, let's say, WeHo Cares or Healthcare in Action? These are street teams that actually go around to unhoused individuals who might, recognize this person? Is that something that the first thing you would do, or?
Yeah, 100%. Our cops team, that was one of the first things that they did is reached out to those teams that are on the streets making contact with our unhoused community, sharing those pictures to see if maybe they have contact with them or recognize them. There are some leads that have been given to us and that we are working on. But yeah, that was one of the first things that they did. And offhand, nobody really seems to know who this person is right now.
Okay. And another thing, a resident had asked me about this, and I didn't know that something had changed, but when there's someone playing loud music, let's say after 10 p.m., I didn't know that code enforcement was in charge of this now. When was this change?
That's kind of been a long-standing thing here in West Hollywood. I'll let Director Rivas address that.
Yeah, that has taken place, I'd say, over 4 years now. It primarily occurred during the pandemic. And so, we started receiving more noise-related calls in residential areas because, of course, everyone was home. And so code enforcement staff was assisting and still is in terms of being the initial folks that will go out and respond, and then they will assess the situation. If it's something that a code enforcement officer feels comfortable with in terms of proceeding with making contact, then they will do so. If it's something that requires backup support from sheriff's deputies, then that code enforcement officer will contact the West Hollywood Sheriff Station and then wait until deputies arrive to make contact and address the situation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other commissioners have comments? I have one or two things I would like to say. Sergeant Duran, thank you for putting the Met team stats on the report that you're starting to provide to us. I really appreciate that. It really helps us get a grasp of the number of people that are being talked to who need some mental health support. Out of the 78 for the month of August, do we know what the outcomes are? What the outcomes are with any of them? Were any of them placed on 5150s? Were they hospitalized, or what were the outcomes of those?
So typically, because of the nature of the type of call, and if it's a mental health type of issue, our clinician prefers not to provide that data. It's a little more private. So those numbers are basically raw numbers, basically of how many contacts we have, how many calls were going on. The Met team themselves don't feel comfortable, divulging too much more than that. Obviously, we know in-house what's kind of going on, but public-wise, they don't want to put out a lot of information about, we're 5115, 20 people a month, something like that, just because of the nature of the type of incident that it is.
Okay. My other question is, it's regards to the scooters and the bicycles on the sidewalks. Just recently in Koreatown, there was a fatality of an elderly Korean man who was struck by a scooter, and he unfortunately passed away. And I see in West Hollywood daily scooters going on the opposite direction of the street, going in the same direction of the street, riding on the sidewalk, not abiding by any of the laws. What's it going to take? And I saw there was 12 citations, scooter citations for the month of August. I think that's pretty low. What's it going to take to start enforcing these scooters these riders on the scooters who are, riding illegally? Along Santa Monica Boulevard, there's multiple signs that says no bicycle riding on the sidewalk. I've seen multiple times, patrol cars just drive by and there's a scooter driving by also. What has to be done? Do we have to have multiple deaths in West Hollywood for something to happen in regards to scooter enforcement?
We've ramped up our scooter enforcement based on the public's outcry for it. So we have been ramping it up. One of the toughest parts for us to enforce scooters is basically their mobility. I mean, how quickly they can traverse the city and go around sidewalks and whatnot when we have our deputies in cars. Our motor units, our motorcycle units have been the most effective doing that, and I think most of those 12 citations were done by our motor units. So we try to devote some time, whether it's on a special day or a special operation where they are all solely doing scooter enforcement. However, we don't want to pull our motors away from doing other traffic enforcement. There are other traffic needs and requests that we have throughout the city, so we try not to pull those motors away on a regular basis just to solely focus on scooters. But we do try to devote some of their time, and we do try to create operations to specifically target those scooters. But again, it's just one of those tough things where in traffic, stop and go on a 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Santa Monica Boulevard, a vehicle, a deputy sitting in a patrol car, they're stuck in traffic, and that scooter will be blocks away before they could even attempt to catch up, maybe.
Thank you. It just becomes very frustrating because we see it every day, and I know our sheriffs also see it. I just don't know what can be done to prevent any incidents like what happened in Koreatown or in any of our neighboring cities happening here in West Hollywood, because I've almost got run over by a scooter a week or two ago, and they really don't care. I feel like these are people who come into the city who don't live in the city, who are just joyriding, for lack of a better term. So hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution to help prevent any scooter accidents or whatnot. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely on our radar, and it's definitely something that we're working on to try to improve the situation.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Sergeant. Any other commissioners have comments? Commissioner Hallman.
Why, thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
I was coming to your defense. I do second that. Again, walking every morning, as we have motorists that are going to work on our streets, we also have scooter cyclists that are going to work. And they are flying down the sidewalks at a rapid and intense pace in the morning. They don't seem to yield or slow down when they get to corners. They're going this way, someone could be walking this way. The next thing you know, it's a disaster. They fly down La Brea, and they assume that they have the right of way. We need to get out of their way. So I think we need to do a better job here. I don't know what that is, but I think it's urgent, because if I get hit by a scooter, it's not going to end well. And I've come close, like Chair Ramian. Again, walking every morning. I should not have to fear for my life walking on the sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallman. Madam Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, we have 3 speakers. First one is Kevin Burton. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Kevin Burton, West Hollywood resident. The first thing I wanted to comment on was to thank the Sheriff's Department for their very thorough report of crimes, which compared to a few years ago is much larger than it used to be. Because in addition to reports of vehicle collisions with bicycles and pedestrians, which they've been providing for over 10 years at the request of the West Hollywood Bicycle Coalition, they're now reporting citations of scooters, other moving citations, pickpockets, DUIs, and I heard of another new category as well. And so I just want to indicate my appreciation for the willingness to step up in response to requests from the community and from this commission for more information. And I would be willing to make a bet that they're probably providing more information to the community, to West Hollywood, than any other sheriff's station in the county. And we also welcome the station stepping up its social media and other day-to-day information between the monthly reports to the Public Safety Commission. And as a bicyclist, I'm also very appreciative that the reports are once again including details of the collisions between pedestrians and vehicles and bicycles and pedestrians, which had dropped off for a period of time, I think, due to issues with resources. But those have reappeared the last couple of months, and that's much appreciated. Thank you. I just wanted to also comment on Commissioner Ramian's and Hallman's comments on the scooters on the sidewalk going at high speed and startling pedestrians. I'm one of those pedestrians who's been startled several times, highly irritating, and I am very much against scooterists doing this. I wouldn't call them scooter cyclists. Scooterists, I think, is more to the point. And I was just wanting to pick up on the comment of mobility and deputies in cars not being able to follow people on scooters, which I appreciate the difficulty. And I would suggest you consider having fewer deputies in squad cars and more on electric bikes. I think your electric bikes, your bikes at the station nowadays are electric, and those can easily maneuver and catch up people on scooters. And also it provides additional, I think, opportunities for communicating with members of the public if they're on bikes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mikey Friedman. If you want to approach the podium, you have 3 minutes.
I know I'm not supposed to bring anything up to the podium, but I didn't have much of a choice. This is Stormy. This is my Stormy. She's kind of like a block-by-block ambassador. Oh, I'm Mikey Friedman, West Hollywood, by the way, in that she's not armed, except for her teeth, and she does let me know, I'm the sheriff, when something bad is happening. The reason I'm here, and you probably took most of my words, both of you, and I want to thank you, Chair Ramian and Commissioner Hallman. There was a terribly tragic accident in Koreatown, and it could have been here. Last December, we had a lady who was also hit by a scooter rider who ran away, didn't stick around to give his name or any of his contact information. She lived, but she's now brain damaged for the rest of her life. There aren't a lot of these that are reported, but there's a lot more of these that happen than we know about. Stormy, come here, baby. I was having dinner the other night at Genghis Cohen with a friend, and our lovely waitress, Lexi, told me that she has 2 friends, both scooter riders, who were badly injured in accidents while they were riding on the sidewalk. It's never ending anymore. And I could say a lot, and I could blah, 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 but basically why I'm here is to ask you to please, and I've been asking for this for a long time, to please consider asking our council to suspend the scooter program until the infrastructure is improved. It's dangerous. I started this whole thing over 2 years ago, not so much because I had a fight with Seppi Shine, but because I was crossing Sunset and there was a man on a scooter toting a dog, and he said, "Get the F out of my way." And that pissed me off so badly, I said, I'm not going to accept that. So thank you for listening, and please consider it, because it would make us all a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephanie Harker. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. Welcome, Jamie. We can always use more. And in fact, I would like to see more deputies overall in the City of West Hollywood. so that we could come up to the 88 officers, which would normally be required for a city our size. Take the burden off of the 60 some odd we have, and response time could be faster, and, well, you know all the benefits of having more. I understand there's a hiring problem, that you don't have enough people, but, you know, we really need to work on increasing the number of deputies. You know, recently on social media, there's been a cry for getting all of us to get back to basics. That's now been discussed, is now being discussed as, or being called, fake nostalgia. Well, if getting back to basics, I guess then I'm nostalgic myself. I'm nostalgic for being able to go out to dinner without fearing being attacked by a person with an automatic rifle after I've had dinner. I'm nostalgic for sitting on Melrose Avenue at lunch and having a gun not pointed in my face while I take my watch. I'm nostalgic for many things like that. I'm nostalgic for being able to take a walk at night without fear of being attacked. And I'm nostalgic for coming out in the morning and not finding my catalytic converter gone. So I just feel that overall, I know the Sheriff's Department is doing the best they can, and we thank you for your service, but we really need to do something about it. And if you want to know how to stop the scooters, Mikey's right. Let's get rid of them, or perhaps the sheriffs could get on a scooter and chase them. But also, I have concerns about the volunteers. We have seen a volunteer be block by block volunteer, or they're not volunteers, sorry. Block by block ambassadors have no protection. And I think there was some talk about at least arming them with pepper spray. We have on camera, as you all know, you probably saw it, a block by block ambassador being attacked by two citizens, I believe whacked over the head with his own flashlight. So they have no protection at all, and I think they need it, and I think the volunteers of the Sheriff's Department also, some of their equipment's out of date. So if we could have all of those things from the city, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Nick Roybal. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Evening, commissioners. I have a question, Sergeant Duran. So yesterday at the candidate forum that Kolami hosted, Mayor John Erickson said that the only reason you were there was because the mayor had death threats against him. And is that accurate? Is that true? And if that's true, is that something the public should be aware of, that our resources are being used in that way?
You cannot speak directly to the sheriffs. You need to direct your questions and comments to the commission.
So, commissioners, Mayor Erickson said yesterday that he was facing death threats, so that's why there were 4 sheriff cars outside of the temple. And then Commissioner Corcoran, they got in an argument, a heated exchange, because they said, no, that's not true. So my question for each of you is, why were our resources yesterday being used in that way? There were 4 cars outside when I left the temple. I'm sure they could have been used in other areas, you know, at Plummer Park and West Hollywood Park, Kings Road, on Sunset, chasing scooters on sidewalks. So I just want clarification about that, commissioners. If anyone, you're John Erickson's commissioner, do you know? Second, is there a way, commissioners, that we can figure out how to cite the robots? Because I was eating at WeHo Bistro right on, you know, La Cienega and Fountain. And the sidewalk's really narrow, and I watched a lot of people, if they were crossing from the 7-Eleven, crossing the street, having to walk in the street to go around the robots. So what are we gonna do when somebody gets hit by a car because they're moving around? Like, how are we dealing with that? Do we have a contingency plan? Do we know, commissioners? Have we brought it up? Have we talked about it? Can we bring the companies back to have that conversation? What else did I want to bring up? Oh, the library. I was at the library today, and I know it's a county library, so I think there's different jurisdictions involved, commissioners. But there's a lot of wild stuff going on upstairs. I'm a grad student, and I do a lot of writing and reading. Much of the resources, I get it's a side of democracy, we can have that conversation, yeah. But in terms of a resident wanting to use the resources, I wasn't able to because much of the resources are being used for our in-house and are mentally unstable that are all being allowed to access the library. I couldn't plug in my laptop because unhoused are using all the plugs. So I was wondering if we could have that conversation. Thank you.
That is all the speakers on this item.
Great. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you. Jamie, welcome again. We look forward to working with you.
So we have a brief presentation from our detective supervisor just to kind of go over the basic overview of our detectives at the station. This is Detective Sergeant Evelio Galvez.
Good evening, chairs and commissioners. Basically, just wanted to kind of give you a little brief overview. So when we get calls, the deputies respond to a call for service, or somebody comes to the counter and a police report is taken. The police report gets, the deputy writes a police report, it gets processed through the secretaries, and then eventually goes to Detective Bureau. Detective, myself, or one of my partner, I have another partner, Sergeant, with Detective Bureaus, we review the reports and we assign them. We assign them to the detectives. There's different types of reports. There's your criminal reports, your in custody reports that have a priority because somebody's in jail and they have to get, they have to be taken care of right away due to the time constraints. There's also your non-criminal reports, your property reports, your crimes against person reports. Those reports get assigned. We assign them to our detectives. Some other reports do get assigned to other bureaus, for example, Special Victims Bureau, if it's some sort of sexual type of assault or child abuse, or arson would go to like an arson investigator, homicides, they would get assigned to homicides and so on. Some of our cases, if it's a high dollar amount like fraud, they can be assigned to fraud bureau or to major crimes bureau. The detective gets assigned the case. At the station level, they review the reports and they start investigating the reports. Some cases, some of our reports have more leads than others. Some of our reports don't have too many leads. So they do have to prioritize the reports that have leads. If it's a crime, serious crimes, those are some of the priorities that they have to look at. For example, the Barney Beanery incident, that's something that gets a priority right away. The case gets assigned, the detective does the follow-up, they'll reach out to the community, they'll reach out to the businesses for videos, surveillance, they'll contact witnesses, the case gets investigated. Not every case is 1-2 days. Some cases last a little bit longer. Once the detective investigates the case, if it's something that they can file the case, there's enough evidence to proceed with the district attorney, they will file the case, submit the case to the district attorney for filing consideration, and that if it's an in custody, those get prioritized also by the DA. They review the case and they either decide if they're going to file it or not, if they're going to decline the case, or if they're going to ask for further follow-up, or if they tell us there's not sufficient evidence to proceed. In that case, they decline the case. As far as when the detectives submit the case, some cases, the DAs, they're backlogged, so some cases might be a few days before they review it. Some cases might be a few months for them to review it. If they decide to press charges, file charges, what happens is they advise the detective we're going to file charges, and the detective either goes, has another deputy or themselves will go arrest the suspect or send them a letter saying, hey, there's been charges filed, you need to go to court. Some cases where they are cited and released, whoever got arrested, they will get a court date in the future. Most of the time, if it's cited and release, it's in 2 months. If it's something where somebody bonds out, bails out, they got arrested and they end up bonding out or bailing out, their court date might be 30 days in advance or 60 days in advance. Once a detective submits the case and it gets filed, the case then goes through the court process, and then that's where kind of it stalls a little bit. But that's pretty much the basic. When the detective gets a case, we assign them, we review them, and going forward to how the detectives investigate it, follow up. At this point, let me see. I apologize. I just came back from vacation. I was on vacation for a week, so I don't have the approximate numbers as to how many cases. On average, reviewing the cases, on average day, we get our detectives get assigned anywhere from 4, 6 cases a day. It depends. Sometimes it's less. Obviously, on the weekends, there's no detectives for the most part. We do have detectives that if we need them to come in, we call them in. But so the weekend, usually Monday, Tuesday, we have the most cases where the detectives might get 6 cases assigned to them. And like I said, not every case it's there's enough workable information where they might necessarily, they'll look at the case, they'll review it. Is there enough evidence to proceed? Is there video surveillance? If there's video surveillance, is there good video surveillance? And then they get cases that license plate, there might be a named person, there might be domestic violence type of cases. I don't have the number at the top of my head as to how many cases we get throughout the year, but I can tell you an average probably case would be about anywhere from a good number, 2 to 4 cases a day. Weekly, they might get about, and sometimes it's a little bit busier, anywhere from 10 cases to higher where they get them. As they investigate their cases and they close their cases, they can move that case along to the side. Just because they move it to the side doesn't mean that case is gone. It just means, for example, if they file charges, that case is just put away. Now it's the DA's job to file the case or not to file it. And if throughout the criminal case there's further investigation needed, they might have to revisit that case. Okay, the DA wants more information, now I have to do further follow-up on that case. And any questions?
Commissioners, do we have any questions at this time? Commissioner Blau?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation and walking through that process. That was really helpful for me, Sergeant. I just have a question. How many stations, how many detectives, including yourself, and I think you'd mentioned you had a partner, are typically working in West Hollywood?
So there's 2 sergeants assigned to the Detective Bureau. We have, at our highest point, we had 10 detectives. Unfortunately, right now, we are down 3 detectives. Actually, 2 detectives, one's on loan to the retail task force, which they still take cases. So right now, anywhere from 7 to 8 cases that detectives, I apologize, that we have.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. When you guys came and spoke to the Community Police Academy, actually last September, there was something that came up that I thought that was interesting. It might just be good for the public to understand. I remember that there was a discussion about the distinction between violent and non-violent crimes, depending on if somebody is at home when there is a burglary. Could you talk about that?
Burglaries, if somebody's like a hot prowl, but that's somebody where a residence is occupied, that's a more serious case for us, law enforcement, compared to if somebody breaks into or burglarizes an unoccupied building. As far as filing, the DA does also consider, I can't speak for the DA, but I'll tell you what I see. It ranges from the burglary cases where a house is occupied, there tend to be more serious charges, whereas if it's a vacant apartment, the DA might file something like a trespassing, which would be a misdemeanor if they file charges. So hot prowls where a residence is occupied are taken more serious.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions? I have one question. Excuse me. Does our city attorney ever file charges if the district attorney doesn't file charges?
So for us, our misdemeanor cases do get filed with the district attorney's office. It's rare that I've seen us, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, it hasn't happened, that I see our cases be sent to the city attorney. I think Mr. Rivas can speak more on that.
Chair, so our city attorney, so we have two different legal counsels. We have our city attorney's office, Lauren Langer from BBK, and so they provide policy guidance to the city. And then we have our city prosecutor's office. So our city prosecutor's office only enforces the West Hollywood Municipal Code. Anything that's penal code related, which is what our Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department deputies file cases on primarily, that all goes through the district attorney's office. And so the city prosecutor or our city attorney's office, not just for West Hollywood, but again, just for other cities, they do not file that unless it's something that's more of like a charter city, like the city of LA, and so forth, right, that have kind of more of a dedicated department with that purview. But our city is not set up that way, and most of the cities throughout the state of California are not as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Freeberg?
Hello, thank you for your presentation. You said there's only 2 detectives assigned to the sheriff's station, and then there was 1 on loan?
No, 10. At the highest point, we had 10.
But
Right now, out of the 10, we were short 2, and 1's on loan, so we have 7, 8, because 1 does still investigate cases that occur in West Hollywood, but they're geared more towards the retail theft.
And do you plan on hiring more detectives to get it back up to 10?
Yes, our administration, our captain is aware, and yes, that is in the works to help alleviate some of that for our other detectives that tend to carry more of that workload.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
We have no speakers on this item.
Great. Moving on, thank you very much for your presentation. Item 9 on the agenda for tonight is items from staff. Are there any community safety updates?
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. The Los Angeles County Fire Department will be hosting Community Emergency Response Team training, also known as CERT, beginning on September 27th at the West Hollywood Aquatic Center. We were excited to see this class fill up quickly to capacity and are currently working on scheduling the next class, which we will announce soon. We will also be offering Russian and Spanish translation for CERT attendees and future classes. We are coordinating a CERT alumni meeting to keep those who have received the training in past years connected and updated. There will be more information to follow soon. The City of West Hollywood, in partnership with American Red Cross, will be hosting a free CPR, first aid, and AED certified training at the West Hollywood Aquatic Center on October 5th. This class has also filled up to capacity. We will be announcing the next class in the coming month. The city continues planning for Halloween 2024, which will take place on October 31st. We are working closely with our sheriffs and fire department, code enforcement, and block by block to ensure the appropriate public safety measures are in place. The city is also currently planning for AIDS Walk LA, which will take place on Sunday, October 13th. On October 12th, Community Safety City staff, along with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, and Block by Block will present to the West Hollywood Civic Leadership Academy. This group is comprised of community members wanting to learn more about and getting involved in city government. The presentation will also include a tour to the West Hollywood Sheriff Station and Fire Station 7. As an update to SB 1421, the Right to Know Act, by the end of this week, we will have a one-page informational sheet updated and added to our city website, and beginning next month, it will be added to the back of the sheriff's report. It will provide information and link to SB 1421 data, and will also provide a link for members of the public to submit commendations or complaints to the Sheriff's Department. On July 15th, 2024, the City Council approved the use of public safety technology to support community safety efforts in West Hollywood. This included a one-year pilot program for the drone as first responder, fixed real-time cameras, and a real-time watch center. An update regarding the public outreach plan that will be implemented for public safety technology in West Hollywood will be on the October 7th City Council meeting agenda. This concludes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10 on our agenda is our public comments. Madam Secretary, do you have any speakers at this time in the chambers?
Yes, we have 3. First one is Mikey Friedman. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
This is very quick. I forgot to ask, what is going on with the scooters that are just left dumped around? I thought that in the contract with Lime, they were supposed to pick them up within a certain amount of time or be fined by the city as part of the contract. And I wondered if that is happening, because I see them sitting not just on busy streets, but on side streets for days at a time. And being a little shorthanded, I can't always call in and find out, how to get somebody to pick them up. I thought they were GPSed and they were supposed to know about it when people drop them off. The other thing I wanted to say was regarding this Korean fatality, the tragedy, it was very clear in the video that these 2 people were both riding Lime rental scooters, and I wondered if that would make it any easier for the police to track them and catch them so that they could face justice. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for listening. Come on.
Thank you, Mikey.
Next, we have Kathy Blavis. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Kathy Blavis, City of West Hollywood. I came tonight because there really aren't that many opportunities for the public to give their opinion about something or make a statement. And I'm here specifically to kind of set the record straight, if you will, with regard to some accusations made with regard to people in the community frightening other people in the community, telling lies and misinformation with regard to the upcoming reconfiguration of Fountain Avenue and Gardner and Vista in terms of bike lanes and loss of parking. I just wanted to have the opportunity for people to understand that in terms of myself and others in the neighborhood, any information that we're responding to was information that we got from the city, we got from the staff with regard to the amount of parking that may be lost on Gardner. We were told initially 56%. Now that figure may or may not be accurate at this point, but since there's really no plan, well, there is a plan, but there is no plan, and nothing has been corrected in terms of just how many parking spaces because it's a work in progress. We can only give the community information that we were told. So nobody is intentionally telling lies or misinformation. Nobody's intentionally trying to scare people. If people hear that there is a possibility of loss of parking, what they do with that information, if it frightens them, if it doesn't bother them, that's on them. Nothing is intentionally being put out to people to scare them or to misinform them. So I'm taking this opportunity to mention that to this commission and also to anyone who might be watching. With regard to public safety and the scooters, I'm very much in agreement that this scooter and robot situation really needs a second look, a third look, a fourth look, wherever we're at. The people who own scooters seem to be very responsible. They're not on the sidewalks. They don't leave them in the middle of the sidewalk. Maybe it's time for, if people want to ride a scooter, then they either have to own one or they have to rent one the same way we rent a car. showing your license and proving that you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you have to buy it from the rental company. So I'm hoping this commission can bring to the council ideas about revamping the scooter system. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Stephanie Harker. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening again. Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. Yes, to pile on or add on to Kathy Blavis's comment, I recall that someone came to this podium at a city council meeting and giving their story, being courageous enough to tell their story of having been attacked on the streets of West Hollywood, robbed at gunpoint. And basically, when people in the community speak about this, we're called fearmongers. Well, it's safe. You're just fear-mongering. It's like, please, please, take us seriously because we are serious. Regarding the bike lanes and safety, there is no mitigation anywhere in sight for the more than 200 residents who will lose their parking in front of their homes if bike lanes are installed on Fountain and Gardner. To date, it has only been suggested that those residents could park in Plummer Park and then move their car by 6 a.m. from wherever the citizens would be forced to walk home, especially after dark. It is not safe. It used to be, not anymore. And the other issue with bike lanes and safety, because of the configuration, if you've seen the plans, this is mostly on Gardner. The other plans are still, quote, up in the clouds somewhere. It's sidewalk, bike lane, parking lane, 2 lanes of traffic, parking lane, bike lane, sidewalk. The individuals who are walking would now have to get across the bike lane, past the parked cars, look around to make sure it's okay to cross the 2 lanes of traffic, then you're okay in the parked cars, then you have to look the other way for bikes before you can get to the other side of the street. And with cars pulling out, you now have to leave your tail end of your auto, pulling out of their driveways, you leave your tail end of your auto in the bike lane while you peek out around the parked cars, which are the protection of the protected bike lanes. So peek around there and either turn right or left. Very dangerous, more dangerous than it has been just across the street, which already is dangerous. And with the robots, the delivery robots, they really need to go. If you need a 2-pound burrito delivered, perhaps you should get up off your couch and go and get it. There was a video of a sheriff's deputy out of his vehicle pushing the stalled car in the center of the crosswalk, pushing it, because they are very heavy when they're not running, pushing it out of the way. It's a very poor use of our sheriff's time. Those need to go as well. Thank you.
And Chair, we do have one more speaker.
Great.
David Eckert, if you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, David Eckert, resident of West Hollywood. I just have a couple public or suggestions that could help with public safety. One are the lights that are consistently burnt out along Santa Monica Boulevard. I think dark spots along the street don't help anyone for safety. That's one issue. Second is many of the crosswalks down Santa Monica Boulevard, the plantings of tall grasses grow extremely tall and block when you're in the middle of the intersections from being seen. So I've had plenty of things where cars just use the excuse, I didn't see you. With that same issue, I think Melrose, the redo, the crosswalks, the button to activate the signals are used about 50% of the time, and I don't know how to let public know that it really helps if they activate those signals. Otherwise, they're useless. Traffic just flows now through that like it's a freeway. When you're when you can actually move down the street. So I'd just like maybe the city to address some of those issues that can help. Thank you.
And that is all for the public comments.
Do we have any callers in Zoom?
There are no Zoom callers.
All right, moving on. Item 11 on our agenda for this evening are commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments at this time? Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to acknowledge I did go to the candidates forum yesterday at Colamy, and I want to thank Wendy Goldman, who did an amazing job organizing that. And it was quite informative, so thank you very much. Also, I once again will be attending CERT training. I did do it last time, in fact, with Wendy and Commissioner Nickel. You were in the class. It was quite informative, but it's a lot of information. There are a lot of acronyms. With that being said, I think it is important to take, so apparently this class is full, which is great, and the city seems to be looking to reschedule another one, so I highly recommend that everyone take it. And I've ordered so many extra things for my CERT backpack that I'm going to need a little wagon to pull it around. Also, I just want to acknowledge Assemblymember Rick Chavez-Zabur. It's not often that a state legislator takes the time to come to a commission meeting. He's very busy, and he's been very busy over the 2 years doing some amazing things on our behalf. So I want to thank him. I think it was a great privilege for us that he did take the time to come in and speak with us. And that's it for me, Chair.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners have any comments for that? Commissioner Nickel or Freeman? Commissioner Nickel.
Great, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I attended the transgender community meeting on the 28th of August. Actually, Commissioner Holman was there as well, but there weren't many other people there, and that's a problem. This is the second one that I attended, and everyone comes out. Captain Mulder was there, Lieutenant Lapkin, Sergeant Duran, there were other people. The previous one, there was an FBI agent. There was the head of, there was somebody from the Department of Justice, the head of hate crimes for LA County. So I really urge people, they're holding out a hand. Please come. They want to help. They want to engage. And if you have problems and you want to see things change, come to the next one, because I know that they hold them quarterly. So thank you.
Commissioner Freeberg?
I just had a quick question for staff. I know it was mentioned in July that we were going to have an agenda item for community safety officers, and that would be after, I believe, City Council was going to see them. Is that something that's on the agenda coming up soon, anytime?
The community safety officer analysis is still something that staff's working on. We do plan on bringing that to City Council, hopefully, tentatively within the next 60 days for review. But then at that point, we'll be sure to share that information with the Public Safety Commission. So it's still in the works right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other commissioners have comments? I just want to say one or two things. I also want to thank Rick Chavez-Zabur for coming out and giving us an update. It's always good to see him, and I do appreciate him coming here and give us an update. I also want to welcome Jamie to our Sheriff's Department here in West Hollywood, in charge of our social media. I look forward to seeing some beautiful pictures on Instagram, Facebook, and I think we need more information going out to the community from the Sheriff's Department, so I do look forward to that. I want to address Mikey Friedman's concern about scooters that are being abandoned in West Hollywood. I completely understand your concern, Mikey, and just about 2 weeks ago, there was 4 abandoned scooters blocking Santa Monica Boulevard and Larrabee. You know, the city of West Hollywood has an app, and I used it that day, and within 5 minutes, someone from Lime was there. and they removed all those scooters. So I encourage you, if you don't have the City of West Hollywood app, I would download it, and there is a section there for scooters. And I was really surprised on how quickly the information got to Lyme, and they had a representative show up and clear up those scooters. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. Block by block, I am also concerned about the protection of our block by block ambassadors. One of our speakers said that they have nothing to protect themselves, and that is absolutely correct. Unfortunately, there's so much crime and hatred going on in our society right now. So I do believe it will be good to see them maybe armed with pepper spray. I know they may require some kind of training on their parts. I know they're all guard card holders, but there may be another certification that we may have to look into for them to probably get like pepper spray certification to protect themselves in the event of something happens where they could protect themselves. The last thing I want to end with is that, we all know that September is Suicide Awareness Month, and it is a serious problem in our society, in our community, in our nation. Look out for signs, look out for your loved ones, and if they need help, let's try to offer help to our friends and family members who are suffering from mental illness, who may show signs and who may not be showing signs. That's all I have in regards to my comments. If there are no other commissioner comments, the Public Safety Commission will adjourn to a special meeting on Monday, October 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers.